I think people are afraid to think of it that way. You'll think of paying a college tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn something, but you don't want to spend any money to learn how to do anything else. Maybe sometimes you got to spend a little money to learn something.
Welcome to the Real Pulse of Real Estate, where we discuss the true ins and outs of the housing market. Welcome back to another episode of Real Pulse of Real Estate. We have Cameron Berens joining us once again. Hello, sir.
Hey.
I hope this has been fun for you. I appreciate you being on so many episodes for me.
I get to talk about real estate and numbers all the time. It's the most fun I've had in years.
Perfect. That's what we love to hear, raving reviews. So this episode, I want to go ahead and talk about investment properties. You were actually doing investment properties before you got licensed and everything, right? Mm-hmm. So is it long-term investments? Is it short-term? Is it both? And kind of like, how do you deal with that?
So I'll talk a little about both, but most of my knowledge is in buy and hold.
Okay.
People know it as buy and hold. And one of the things that attracted me to that is it's the easiest way for the average person to build wealth is what I saw. I grew up that what you do is you get a job, good job with benefits and your 401k, and you do that until you're ready to retire. Mm-hmm. And when I mentioned this at the beginning, but Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which if you haven't listened to it, I recommend giving it a listen. It's good just for, I think, everyone just to at least hear one time. Yeah. Because it opens your mind to the different ways of looking at like being an employee, self-employed, business owner, and investor. And I just was drawn to that. The idea of, wow, an average person like me can build generational wealth by acquiring rental property. So it's a little more complex than that, but then it's also not. And what I mean is it's not as easy as HGTV makes it seem.
No, it is not just 3 houses we're looking at and then we're buying. And
right, exactly. Yeah. But once you learn what you're doing, it's also not as scary as you think either. I mean, I think everyone could do this. This is what made me feel so confident in it. You think about someone in your life that you've met that has a rental property. You're going to tell me that person has some genius compared to you or knows a bunch of stuff you don't. That's what really started to click with me is when I started seeing these people that had like 5 to 10 rental properties. And I'm like, what? That's just an average person to me. Mm-hmm. Like, why can they do it and I can't?
Yeah.
And that's what really, I was like, you know what? I want to give this a try. So what I think you should do if you're wanting to get into rental property is, and we'll start with that, really either any way of investment property, whether you're fix and flips, whatever you want to do, is research it. Do a lot of research. There's so many resources these days. Mm-hmm. It's so easy. YouTube, biggerpockets.com, a plug for them. They have an awesome podcast and website that's all about real estate investing. Mm-hmm. I was obsessed with that when I first started because it was just all the people that have done rental property and different kinds of investments. And I just got to read about and learn about their mistakes. So I didn't make them. But I think a lot of people they see they have 2 things. One, they see it on what's on HGTV and all of that. And they're like, this looks fun. I'm going to buy this property and me and my wife or me and my buddy or whatever are going to go and just fix this place up. And it's all going to be peachy. Mm-hmm. And it can be great if you stay positive about it. But there's also a lot of behind the scene things that you don't see. Yeah. But then the other side to it is don't get scared because you're like, well, how am I going to buy this house? And I'm going to have to do all this work. I'm going to have to do that. There are ways to alleviate that as well. So ways to get started for people that are interested, I guess I could start there, is how can you even get started in rental property? So you just learn, do the research. If you were going to get a job or something, if you're going to be like a doctor, not that it's comparable to being a doctor, but you're not going to jump in. You're going to do some research. You're going to learn about it. You might even get a mentor. And if you know someone locally that's doing fix and flips or rental property, see if you can't do something for them for free so that you can learn from them or spend some time with them. I mean, you could always offer to buy them lunch, but I mean, I don't want any more free lunches. If you want, not that I'm like the busiest guy in the world, but like if somebody came to me and was like, hey, I want to learn that. Can I do some work for you for free if you teach me how to do this? Mm-hmm. You're like, well, heck yeah, I can find something for you to do. And in return, I'll give you some of my time. So try to do that. And the cool thing is with the internet, you don't have to have a physical mentor. It can be someone on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, and you just follow. Now, don't just follow people on TikTok that are even use snippets. Like, yes, they can give you some good information, but I would suggest trying to find something a little more long form, like an actual long YouTube video or podcast where someone is giving you the nitty gritty details. Yes. Because a lot of people like to say, Don't buy this house and put work into it. And then you can do this and that. And you have this much equity and then you can rent it out. Boom, TikTok over. Like that did not just go into all the detail that it actually takes. So find something online, learn, and then you'll feel more confident when you do go to it. That's why I wasn't nervous when I did it, because I had done the research.
Yeah.
And another thing is you just got to get started. You got to do something. Run the numbers and make sure it makes sense. This is how I thought about it. And luckily I overly analyzed things to death, so I didn't lose money. But on our first one, even if we lost a little bit of money or didn't make what I thought or broke even, some people are paying 50 to 100 grand to go to college to learn something. Mine, even if I lost a couple $1,000s, I guarantee I would have learned a lot during that. And I did learn a lot. Fortunately, I didn't lose any money, but I learned a lot. And I think people are afraid to think of it that way. You'll think of paying a college tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars to learn something, but you don't want to spend any money to learn how to do anything else. So sometimes be careful spending stuff on like classes and gurus and stuff, but maybe sometimes you got to spend a little money to learn something. You got to buy some books. Got to maybe buy a little course or something, but do the research. And some actionable items that you can like actually do besides just learning is find the mentor and get your finances lined up. Because ultimately, as we know, as real estate agents, nothing's more annoying than someone wants to buy a house but won't get pre-approved.
Yes.
You're doing the same thing. You want to do all these make-believe numbers. You haven't even talked to a lender.
Yeah. If you don't know the real numbers, that's going to be a huge issue, because you could run numbers all day, every day, and then you didn't think of, oh, well, this loan program, I need to have X amount down for because it's considered a second home or whatever, right? Realistically, if you don't put the effort into actually getting approved and knowing the real numbers, everything you're doing is great. And then it's all going to fall apart the second the numbers don't match.
So knowing the numbers is really good. Like I would say you run a bunch of, I did this. I ran a couple practice scenarios. I would just go online and I would run numbers like, okay, if I got this property, what would the numbers need to be for it to be a good rental property? And if you don't know these numbers, I mean, I'll spout some things out here. So one of the strategies that we like to use, we're currently using. So we use the BRRRR strategy, which I'm sure people have heard that. And it's like, yeah, I've heard that. But here's a real life scenario. So we find a place and the price was $110,000. And we have accumulated enough capital to be able to buy a place cash. And I know some people are going to say, I don't have $110,000. Well, I'll get to that in a minute in ways you can figure that out. But I didn't just stumble upon this money overnight.
There were steps.
It's a line of credit. We were partnering with someone. So we buy it $110,000 cash. Why are we doing that? Because it needs work. So this BRRRR strategy is buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So we buy this property cash. We're putting work into it. So it takes additional capital to fix this property up. So we buy it for 110. We're all in for 25,000 repairs. So now our total all in is 135,000. Now what our goal is to go to the mortgage lender, say, okay, we've got $135,000 into this. The mortgage lender find this out beforehand. We know that they will lend us up to 75% loan to value. So we can then go to the mortgage lender, and if it appraises for about $185,000, we need it to appraise for, and we will get 100% of our money back out. So we 110 purchase price, 25 repairs, all in 135. It appraises for 185. We're taking a mortgage out. We're doing that's all we're doing is we're saying, hey, we already own this. Will you give us a mortgage on it for 135,000? And they're gonna say, okay, we need to see if it appraises. Well, I already ran my numbers. I feel pretty confident it's going to appraise hopefully close to 200,000. So we'll literally get a check at closing or wire the money for $135,000. So essentially we were into this property for $0 out of pocket. And why would we do that? Or why would the bank give us $135,000? Well, it's the same as you going and buying a house and putting 25% down and the bank giving you a mortgage. They'll gladly do it because they want to make interest off you. And I'll gladly do it because I want that money back out so that I can go and do the final R of the process and repeat. And this is the easiest way for the average person to build additional revenue source or generational wealth. And so getting back to how can you do this? You don't have $110,000 sitting around plus $25,000 for repairs. Well, there's a couple of ways. One, you can partner with someone. Maybe you know someone, especially right now, people, with inflation and everything, people are looking for stuff to do with their money. They're nervous of the stock market. They're nervous of inflation. Now, if you don't have any experience, this may be a little more difficult, but
I would agree.
But a thing you could do is, but maybe they want to get in on it too. So you go to them and do your numbers, have something to present to them. Don't just run to them and say, hey, I've got this property I want to buy. Will you go in with me? Show them the numbers and maybe, okay, let's do this. I'll put up the money. And they're essentially being the lender for you and just work something out where, okay, at the end of the deal, they get $5,000, $10,000 is what their payout is for. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, okay, it's going to take you 3 months, 4 months, and I'll get $10,000 at the end of it. I don't want to keep all my cash in the stock market. I don't want to get eaten up by inflation. And I'm using this example because I know people that do exactly what I'm saying. For those thinking that wouldn't work for me, I guarantee you it can, because I know people that do this same exact thing. They have a silent money partner that doesn't want anything to do with the properties. They just want to make a quick few $1,000s with their money that they have sitting around. So maybe you have to ask 100 people to find one. If you're not willing to put in some work, then this isn't just going to come to you. This isn't TV. This is real life. Yeah. So you find someone to be the money side of things. And then when it goes to refinance, you just refinance the property in your name. You pulled all the cash back out. You pay your money partner back. And then you can repeat the process. Only do what your risk tolerance will allow you to do. If you can't sleep at night, then don't do it. But there are some people that take money out of their 401k and do this and then put the money back when they're done. There are some people that partner with someone. Maybe you have $50,000 and someone else has $50,000 and you're like, hey, let's find. And if there's people listening to this that aren't in our market, I just thought about this. You're probably hearing these numbers and you're like, where are you finding properties for $110,000? Well,
right down the road.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, man, I shouldn't be saying this because I don't want more people in our market. But get out of California and Florida and New York and look more in the center of the country. There are properties that you can scoop up. I guarantee I could pull up the MLS right now and find something that I could put $50,000 into and make a cash flowing rental property.
Yeah.
And you also may have to get out of your market a little bit. It's always good to start in your local market because keeping everything close to you in case something goes wrong.
Well, especially running as starting, because you're probably going to be the property manager for starting out. You're not going to, most property management companies that I know aren't going to take one portfolio home or anything like that.
Right.
And it's also, honestly, it's a good idea to actively be involved and learn more about your home and how to fix things, plus save some money.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah. First, in the beginning, you want to keep budget as low as possible while you're getting started. But there's some good, you can also do what's called hard money. There are people out there specifically what they like to do is lend money to investors. It's at a higher interest rate and a shorter term, but you're essentially buying the property cash because you're skipping the whole bank process. And then you refinance to pay them back. Yeah. So these are good creative strategies. And I'm not telling you like no money down this and that. I know that sounds so like scammy, but I'm doing it right now. Like I'm telling you, these are real ways you can do this. And I help clients that do this as well. So these are real processes that you can use to get rental property. And then of course, there's always the good old putting 20 to 30% down and buying a property. Yeah. Now, the reason I don't do that is because I'm trying to buy property more quickly where I don't want to have to save up 20 to 30%. But that's what I did for my first property. I had some money. I found a great property. I went to my dad who he was considering it and he was a little skeptical, but like, hey, I showed him all the numbers. I had everything like planned out. I'm like, look at this. And I had a presentation for him. And so we went in and we just put 25, or I think we only had to do 20%. This was pre-COVID era. And they were a little loose. Well, I don't want to say loose. I still had to put 20% down. Yeah. But we got a property for 20% down and just took out a standard 30-year fixed rate mortgage. And right now that's a very good cash flowing property. But there are just so many advantages. Like everyone should have at least one rental property. And I think the reason is because it's given you a little bit of a diversification and hedge against different things that can happen. I mean, right now, people are panicking because the stock market's going down. Well, you know what's not going down? Rents. Yeah. So while other people, I don't want to sound like everything's like about money, but I have a family to support. Yeah. And for me to know that I have additional revenue sources that are helping me, even if the real estate market slows down or the stock market goes down, not that I'm living off stock stuff anyway right now. I'm only 31 years old, but it's nice to know that, oh yeah, we still have that rental property income coming in. And it's truly diversifying. And especially if you're a real estate agent listening to this and you don't own a rental property or you're not looking into it or saving or working towards that goal, this is the one business where insider trading is legal.
Yeah, no, truly. And I think that's one big thing that, yes, there are all these other things, but as a real estate agent too, I have a lot of real estate agents that kind of have started realizing, oh, when I'm done selling real estate, I'm no longer making anything more because we are commission. We get paid off of sales. Now, one thing that you were saying of wanting to kind of protect yourself with a family, of having something consistently come in, that's something that Emily and I went through, my wife, where we got hit by a drunk driver a couple of years ago. Yep. Emily was out of work for 4 months and everything else. I was out of commission for as long as I could be because, again, I'm 100% commission. But we sort of started realizing that if this were to happen again, because life happens, it would be nice to have a consistent 1,500 to 2,500 coming in monthly. That's even why specifically I've started Tom Ferry coaching, and I specifically requested that my business coach be involved in investment properties and everything else to kind of give me that guide and meditation for, like you were saying, mentorship.
Yeah. The mentorship is, I think, such an undervalued thing or under thought about thing. You just got to ask somebody. Now, don't go with your hands out, because I know for Tom Ferry coaching, you pay for that mentor, but they're providing you value. And if you can't pay financially, can you pay with your time? Don't go with your hands out saying, hey, will you help me and hold my hand through this process? And just because of the kindness of your heart, chances are if they're good at it, then they're probably busy. Be respectful of their time, but don't think that someone's too busy to help you. We met with someone, I think about 2 months ago, and they're doing rental property and fix and flips at a pretty high pace. And at first I'm like, I don't want to bother this person, but it's someone that Stephanie knew, and they're like, no, they'll be glad to talk with us. And we met with them, and they were just genuinely like, they wanted to help. Now in the beginning, some people might be like, I don't know, I'm nervous to give someone advice, or I don't have time. But once someone's doing it pretty good, and they have a good amount of rental property, they don't have that scarcity mindset. They actually turn into, I want to help someone else. That was exactly their mentality. It's given them such a great financial freedom in life. They're like, I want to share this with other people. So just ask.
And like you said, the scarcity mindset is no longer with them, that they're willing to share, they're willing to talk, kind of like what you and I do with like trainings and everything else. So we're not scared for other people to be doing business. We want people to be successful at the end of the day. And I've even had investors that I've met up with, and again, you need to give them value just as much as they're providing you value. But I've had investors say, hey, actually for my portfolio, I know of these 2 or 3 leads of people looking to sell. I don't have the capacity right now. You might want to check them out. And there's even ways of just talking with them on that aspect of maybe getting leads of, hey, check these properties out. Now, there are some things that I would say, like Millionaire Real Estate Investor is a really good book with giving you a budget and making sure you stick with that. But also understanding, maybe be a little bit more selective of, am I looking for single family attached, single family detached, and how do I want to start, right?
Figure out what it is that you're wanting to do. Like there are so many cool things that you can do in real estate, cool and fun, exciting, but narrow it down. You want to alleviate the chance of you losing money as much as possible. So figure out what the numbers are and stick. So if your game plan is single family properties, stick with that until you get your feet wet a little bit. Because next thing you know, you're like, oh, this looks like a good deal. That looks like a great deal. I want to get into buying manufactured homes and putting on a piece of land. I know, because in the beginning, I was drawn in all directions because it all sounded so cool. And then I had to like narrow down my focus and say, okay, let's just get started on one thing. And don't get discouraged if it takes you a little bit to find a place. You may have to analyze 10, 15, 20 properties before you finally get one. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it too. It's not as difficult as everybody makes it seem, I will say. Like the one we're doing right now. We've had to get more contractors than we've had to, we had to have all of the attic insulation pulled out. I've never had to do that in a property before. And where at first it may be like, what in the world? How do I do this? How do I do that? It seems so overwhelming. It's really not. I just found a contractor that could do it. And then my dad and I learned how to blow insulation in an attic did ourselves. But you really just have to do it. It's the same as if you're a real estate agent listening to this and you went to real estate school and then you were a licensed agent and you still were lost and you did not know what to do. That's everyone's feeling. You're like, oh, what do I do now? You just got to live it and learn it. And that's the same with rental property. Do the best you can to safeguard yourself from making mistakes, whether that's partnering, doing your due diligence, practicing running numbers. But at the end of the day, you just have to do it, whether it's fix and flip, whether it's buy and hold, whatever it is, you just got to get that real life experience.
And it is one of those of, make sure you're actually doing actionable things, because there are the people who are like, I win the lottery and this is what I'm going to do. and they don't buy a lottery ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing of, you can say I'll have all these investment properties and this is what I would do and this is the kind of property manager I would be. That's great. If you don't buy an investment property, that's where you're going to struggle. But yes, I do think, don't stretch yourself thin. Single family is very different than multifamily, which is very different than commercial when it comes to rentals and different aspects like that. Make sure you are doing your due diligence, looking for mentorship. And honestly, if you have a local lender, especially, I would very much caution not going outside of your area. Make sure it's a local lender who may know the laws a little bit better.
Start local with everything. I would say you could, and I'm sure there's other people that disagree or say, well, unless your market is just not, if you live in downtown LA or something, it may not be possible, or Beverly Hills or something. Then it may not be possible, but try to start local. It's just, when things go wrong, and they will, it's easier to control and manage locally. So once you get your feet wet a little bit, then you can manage stuff from afar. But yeah, just get a game plan, do your research, have your exit plans before you start.
Yeah.
I'd say you should have 2 exit plans. One is you exit it as a rental property, if that's your strategy, or can you sell it afterwards? So I like to be a little overly cautious, where I knew with the property that we're doing right now, for instance, even if I blew the budget, I felt very confident that we could at least sell it and walk away with a little bit of a profit, or at least break even. So, okay, that's what I'm going to go with.
And if you're breaking even in this first experience and everything, and you're learning a whole lot, I would call that walking away with a win.
I'd say it's walking away, because you didn't just walk away with nothing. You walked away with a crap ton of experience. And that's, most people don't, like, you can read and read and learn, but ultimately you're not going to get anywhere until you just pull the trigger and start doing it. Now, I mean, I could go on talking about the different ways to do rental property, but the best way is to just pull the trigger and just do something.
Yeah. And I agree. It's surrounding yourself with the right people, pull the trigger and learn, and just take it all in. Find the wins, and don't focus heavily on the losses. Focus on what the losses taught you.
Yeah. That's and everyone, we're still learning something. Like I said, with this attic thing, that was the first time I just didn't even think about, like, we had to remove all the insulation from here. You're always learning, but you'll get better each time. And just don't be distracted by, you see someone that has like 10 properties, 20 properties, 30 properties, unless it's your motivation. To me, that was actually motivation. I saw people with like 50 rental properties. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I know I can do what that person's doing. But even if you just sit down right now and write out, if you made whatever you feel like your profit margins are, but if you cash flowed $250 a month from a rental property, and you just acquired one property a year for 10 years, to me, that's something that most people can wrap their head around. Now, I want to be a little more aggressive than that, but even if, are you not going to be around in 10 years? I would hope you are. So would you not be in a better place? It's the same as, like, if you want to make that little change for whatever it is in life, add that one rental property a year, 10 years, you got 10 properties, cash flowing $250 a month. That could potentially supplement your income right there. Or just think about the life change that would have for you. You don't have to be that super aggressive person that's trying to do, 3, 4, 5 properties a year.
Yeah. And I mean, there are people that I know for a fact that I literally just had clients, actually the clients we worked with, the property that you had buyers for that we ended up selling, that was their rental property. It was the time for them to sell. They didn't want to be landlords anymore in that aspect because of where they are. And at the end of the day, the sale of the property, because they'd had it for so long, it was paid off. And now that seller, the wife, is going to be able to retire earlier than what was anticipated because of being able to pay off their actual home. Yeah,
there's so many. I mean, I could have started out with this, like, comparing this rental properties or real estate in general is my favorite investment strategy because you get so many wins with it. It's not just, I bought this property for 25% down and I'm making $250 a month cash flow. That's one part of it. You're also getting principal pay down from the tenant. And over a period of time, you're getting appreciation, even if it's like, well, I don't think homes are going to appreciate for the next 2 years. Okay, what about over the next 10 years? So you get cash flow, if you buy right, you get appreciation, you get principal pay down, and you get tax incentives. I'm not a CPA, I talk to your CPA, but you get tax incentives as well. So there's 4 ways I'm winning with my rental property, whereas the stock market is maybe just 1 or 2 ways. So I'm not saying you go all in on real estate, but to me, it's just the coolest thing. Again, like I said, the average person can build wealth, not just for themselves, but for their family. It's just so many creative ways. My first rental property, I bought a HUD property. And I don't know if they have this anymore. Actually, it might start to come back if foreclosures ever come back in the future. Here is HUD used to do a $500 down program. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah,
it was a long time ago, but this was actually before I was a real estate agent. Bought the property. I had to live in it. That was the deal. It was owner occupied, but I bought it for $500 down. It didn't really need that much work. People didn't like trash it or anything. They just left. So I got in this property for $500 down. Only had to pay closing costs, and then when I moved out, I just kept the property. I didn't sell it. And this is another thing you can do. You're not supposed to tell your lender this, but you can, well, actually, I don't even know if most of them will care. But when you agree to buy the home, especially for like FHA, you're supposed to be living there for a year, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to. Most regulations are you have to be in within 60 days and then living there for a year.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying you move out early, but I'm saying you could move in a year. And you just bought a property. Let's say you use FHA. You bought a property for 3.5% down. And now you say that whole year, you're just saving up. And assuming your debt to income ratios and everything okay, you can buy another property, move into, and now that one you can rent out. And that's a way that I know if people don't buy in the like multifamilies, because you can buy up to a 4-family home and use FHA financing.
Yeah.
So you can get a 4-family home. This is just other creative ways. I was just talking about the BRRRR strategy that I use, but another way is, you buy a 4-family, 2, 3, or 4-family home. You can buy it FHA, 3.5% down. You live in one unit and rent the other 3 out. And if you got it at a good enough price, that would pay for the entire mortgage with the cash flow, maybe even make a little bit. I remember my first year in real estate, I helped somebody do this. And I had already had kids at the time, so this was off the table for me. It wasn't going to be an option to move in these smaller 4-family home. But he moved out after a year, and he, at the time, was cash flowing almost $1,000 a month off one 4-family property.
Yeah.
Because he got it for a good price. He lived there for a year and moved out. And like, wow, that's really cool. So yeah, especially if you don't have kids or you're single, that's a great thing you should be doing right now. Don't jump to just living, man, like if you're like 20, 21, 22 years old and you're in a position where you want to buy a home, don't buy that home, buy that multifamily property and live in it. And then after a year, you can move out if you want, or if you meet someone that you want to marry or you want to start having kids and you need a bigger place. But now if you have this place that's part of your retirement right there. Yeah. And if you retire, by the time you're 60 and you bought this thing when you're 25, as long as you didn't refinance, it'll be paid off. Yeah. You could be cash flowing $2,000 a month, all because of one decision that you made instead of following the norm.
Yeah.
You did something a little different.
Of the single family white picket fence kind of.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And everybody wants to strive for that. But what if you spent your first 3 years just hopping around to different properties, acquiring rental properties, and now you just set yourself up for life? Yeah. Read books, learn, get some mentorship, listen to podcasts, whatever. And ultimately you just got to jump in and do something.
Yeah. Pull the trigger.
Pull the trigger. Yeah. That's the only way you're going to really, truly learn.
Yeah. And if anybody has any questions, wants to comment below or anything like that, always feel free to reach out to us on social media, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I am happy to help in whatever capacity I can, and Adam as well. And if we don't know the answer, we can definitely point you in the direction to someone that does.
Exactly. So Cameron, thank you once again for being on. Speaking of reaching out, how can people reach out to you? Where should they be looking?
So you can pretty much find me anywhere just by typing in my name on any social media platform or Google and just typing in Cameron and my last name Berens, Berens. The only other person in the world that I'm aware of named Cameron Berens is my father, and he doesn't have social media. So I'm extremely easy to find, and I will usually reach out within like an hour or so, whatever platform you're reaching out on.
Perfect. Well, awesome. Thank you again for being on. Thank you to everyone listening, and I appreciate you being on Real Pulse of Real Estate.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Real Pulse of Real Estate. If you're looking for more content, follow me on Instagram or TikTok at I'm Cron Burgundy or Facebook at Adam Cron Realtor. Can't wait for you to join us next week.